I've spent way too much money on marketing courses, Facebook ads, and other promos only to get a small bump in sales and then watch it flatline. If that sounds familiar to you, then you're in the right place because Pen to Profit is where we can figure out how to turn stories that we love to write into a business that actually pays the bills. Because writing is it's one part of the business, but selling it, whole nother challenge. And it's a lot easier and way more fun when we do it together. That's why I'm here. We can talk about with other authors what's really working, share the experiments that my business partner and I are running in our own author career, and then be honest about what's working and what flops. There's no fluff, just real conversations about building a sustainable author business from the ground up. By the way, I'm Debbie, and I'm one half of the indie romance pen name Fiona Whitman. And this podcast is for indie authors who want more than just an occasional sales spike. They want steady growth, loyal readers, and businesses that can actually pay the bills. So if all this sounds interesting to you, hit the subscribe button and join the conversation. What you're about to hear is exactly the kind of real, unfiltered talk we're having here. Today, we're sitting down with Lisa J. Page, an inspiring, grounded author whose approach to balancing family, career, and writing shows exactly why we're committed to helping authors build sustainable, profitable businesses. I'm so happy to introduce Lisa J. Page. Lisa is a self-published author of the story Just a Family Friend, and she is also the publicity officer for the Romance Writers of New Zealand. Welcome to our first podcast, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a New Zealander. I've been married to Peter Page for 27 and a half years. We have three lovely children, Richard, Leon, and Isabella. And I currently am working in the city community library. Before that, I was a high school teacher. So that's sort of my inspiration. I like writing teenage romances, and I've recently written a sweet adult romance. So we'll see how it goes.
How do you juggle many hats? I mean, you have a family, you have a role in the library, you have many things going on. How do you do it all?
I make sure I have me time, and that's a big part of my relationship with Peter, is that we both get our me time. So with the publicity officer and romance writing, that's a different hat, but I like wearing that hat, and that's usually in the weekends. But never mind, we get there to do what we need to do in the weekends, and also make sure I have time for writing as well as I love reading at the moment. I've got lots of books on the go, so do a lot of that sort of stuff.
How Lisa and I met is Lisa is one of those that reaches out to authors and interviews them. So today is actually we're kind of turning the we're doing a 180. We're actually interviewing Lisa for the first time. She usually interviews other authors. But what started inspiring you to interview other authors?
I think because I've recently done a personality test and I found out I was the woo and strengths. And that means you love people, you really have to get to meet people who inspired me to reach out to authors, not only in New Zealand, but people I read for like Debbie, and just really want to get promote people out there.
Any particular memorable ones? I mean, you don't have to say names. Any particular memorable ones that stand out?
One memorable one was a husband and wife team from Scotland, Amy McGavin, and I read for them. I really enjoyed their True Scotsman series. And also, recently I did the How to Write Academy ladies. So you've got Jennifer, Amy, and you got Ellie, and they're based in Australia. So, trying to work out our time zones was tricky, but most of them were pretty accommodating and wanting to get their name out there, and this is the way we can do it. I think they're surprised that, I'm reached out to them really and then say, hey, do you want to do this interview? Are you keen? And, this way that they get a bit of self promotion out of something that I enjoy meeting someone new. So it might be someone I've read for that I interview, or it might be a romance writer of New Zealand that I'm actually promoting. So I've had a variety of people I interview. So it'd be nice to get there and do it for the authors really, and that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why I said to my executive committee, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to promote our authors in some way. And I've been doing it for this would be coming up my third year as publicity officer in August. um, One group I belong to, it's the Fireside Book Cafe, and they promote readers, but they also promote authors and try and getting our books out there. So Debbie Hyde, big ups to her because she started that off, and one of our ear conditions to belonging to that club is you review other people's work, and that way I've got a lot of different genres apart from romance, but I particular am fond of the romance area. So that's been a really good part for me to play in, and also being part of the Romance Writers of New Zealand. That's made me a lot of contacts within New Zealand, but also other people around the world.
What I hear what you're sharing is that, it's because writing can be a lonely experience, right? You are by yourself or maybe with a partner and you're deep into your story. But I'm hearing that also you can have a community around this and get support in many ways. It's not just, we have this identity that we think that we need to promote it on these social media platforms when our community is all will embrace us down the street. I find that we need to get out of the way of ourselves of thinking, a, you're alone, but b, that the social media is not the only way to connect and promote yourself.
No, I have found that. Like with romance writers, I have a chapter meeting once a month, and I've got coming up in about 5, 6 weeks' time. I've got the annual New Zealand conference where we get together. So there's about 75 of us going to that so far this year. So that's usually done on a yearly basis, and I'm on the exec committee as the publicity officer and things. So I'm looking forward to that, having a bit of leave from work and going to that conference.
So what happens at the conference?
We get guest speakers, we get networking with your fellow peers and that sort of thing. A lot of them are introverts, but I love people and trying to get that puzzle out of, who these people are and that sort of thing. So that's where my woo comes in, enjoying people and that sort of thing.
A lot of us can easily be introverts, and that's why we like to write. But yeah, being giving getting permission, giving yourself permission to go out and connect with others. You never know who you're going to meet. You could meet a Lisa J. Page, you know, who is not only involved in the community, but she's a writer herself, and just is always looking at expanding her community from a writer's perspective, but also just a support level. I just want to thank you very much for supporting, the indie writer, because like someone's on our side, and just knowing that there's a lot of Lisa J. Pages out there, on our side feels supportive, and we kind of need that these days.
Yeah, I agree with you. With me, this is my book here. So it's
Oh,
just a family friend. So I got a copy for you. So yeah, I started. Took me about 2.5 years to write that, but I've done two in that same title, same characters, but I've totally changed the story, modernized it, and that sort of thing. The one in this series, I'm doing book two in this series. So these are all the boys are cousins, so I've connected them, and of doing Alex and Kate's story at the moment, and I've also written Liam and Bella's story. So the types, I just have to edit those types. So I've only probably got about 5 chapters to go on that one. Then I'll get my editor to read it through. So Pete's my sort of beta reader, and then I get other people to do the next part, the next stage, to see where it gels. Because with this one, I had an idea for a date and like the night noodle market and 10 pin bowling, and then I changed my mind and made it Netflix and having a takeaway and things. And my editor said, "Nah, you should go back with the night noodle market. You can develop that." So that's what I did, and that was quite nice. I actually, the teenagers liked the drama, so And being a school teacher myself, I could see that when I was working, you saw the drama with the girls and the guys. And in May, I did a challenge to myself. I wanted to write every day in May. So I wrote about a 25,000 words novella. And that's where it's a second chance, sweet adult romance. And I've not tried that before, not tried an adult one. But with this one, I plotted it out step by step what I wanted in each chapters. Whereas with the adult one, I wanted to try the method of go with the flow, see where it leads me. And I thought that was quite. It wasn't time. I wasn't time constricted, but I had a lot of fun trying to do a different way because how I do my writing is I actually handwrite and then I do the typing as the second part. A lot of people just find it easier doing all the tip top typing, but nah, I have to handwrite it. It gets my creativeness going. So I enjoy doing that. With the sweet adult romance, I knew the beginning, I knew where I wanted it roughly to end, but I just pantsed my way through it and decided, this is how it was going to go. And then when came to the end of May, I hadn't had my epilogue done, so I left it a couple of weeks to see where I really wanted to sit that story, and then I did it a few weeks later. And recently, I got my husband to read it through and see what he thought, and he thought I did well with the epilogue that I did create in the end for that story.
So is your husband your editor?
No, no, I've got another friend who does editing, but try and get the husband to he likes reading as well. So I try and get him to do things, but he's a bit of a writer himself. He helps write wargaming scenarios. So he's got 3 books out there with some other men, and that's for the setter for King and Parliament rules, so Cromwell era. But he enjoys that, and it's quite fun. We have a lot of fun with our writing, both of us. So I keep teasing him we should be like Amy McGavin and do a husband and wife duo, but he's not keen.
Well, yeah, because you're like, you need to come over to the romance side, honey. He's like, no, I'll stick with
Yeah,
my war games.
I think so.
Let's talk your thoughts on where you think the most critical social media platforms are necessary for an indie author.
I use Facebook. So having your own author account for Facebook, your Instagram author account, having your own website. So mine's under construction at the moment. So it'll be www.lisajpageauthor.com, but that's still in construction at the moment. I find Instagram, having a good account on there. Goodreads. I read a lot and do a lot of my reviews on Goodreads. I find that's a good way to promoting yourself out there. I know it's connected to Amazon, but I really enjoy actually if I see an author I like or see what they're into, I can read it there. Amazon, I did my second book was through them through self publishing. BookBub, I find it useful because that could be a good sales pitch you can use. I use Kobo, but I mainly use it to read off. And Barnes and Noble, it's a great bookshop, but with the cost of sending to New Zealand, it's a bit pricey. But yeah,
Hmm.
we don't tell the husband about the credit card bill. That's our secret.
One thing I want to ask you, what are the common misconceptions authors have about publicity?
I feel they probably go quite wide with their advertising and things, but if you know something well, like Facebook or Instagram, use it to your advantage. Use instead of just doing one, you might just concentrate on one thing. So I find, yeah, using what you know is the best way to go.
So concentrating on instead of like you're thinking you need to be in all places like TikTok and all those other
Yeah.
areas. I see.
Yeah, just think of, one thing that good. You might be, the Facebook ad queen or, the Instagram, how to do reels and things like that sort of thing.
Or you're one of my ARC readers, and which mine are steamy and these are clean. Do you prefer one or the other, or just enjoy romance in general?
Oh, romance in general, I go from Christian romances from Denise Hunter right up to the erotica, like Dean Neal. So, wide variety. So If people looked at my Goodreads pages, they'll probably thinking, she's reading wide. So I belong to a book club with friends, and lately, if it's not got romance, I've got my blinkers on now. So much romance I've had in my life, the last few years. I can't read much else, if it's a sci-fi or a fantasy. I don't know, it just turns me off. It has to have something with the romance element to it, I
Oh,
think, lately.
fair enough. And can you give any piece of advice for an aspiring author today?
And just give it a go, write what you love doing.
Mm.
Because if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to enjoy it. So, and if what you enjoy, what might be something someone else might enjoy.
That's excellent advice. It's sort of like that with anything in life, right?
Yep, yeah. That's why with me, I did my teacher training when Richard was a baby. Taught for a bit. Then we had the twins, so Leon and Bella, and then I had 5 years at home, and then went back substitute or relief teaching, we call it here, and did that for a while. And this year I had the opportunity. There was a job going in the library. Thought I'd go for it. I did a few library papers when the twins were babies, just for interest, really. And I'm really enjoying it. It's in my local community, so I do one shift in the main library and get all my meetings and my training and that sort of thing there. And then the rest of it's down in our community library, which is 3 minutes drive from home, and really enjoying it. And I love meeting people. So, one person said, I'm trying to, my game is when I get a customer coming into the library, I try and guess their name before they give me their card to get books out. So I'm getting it pretty spot on at the moment. So it's pretty cool.
It sounds like a very busy schedule, and especially that you have kids too. But I admire you for being making sure it works for everyone.
Well, it's a new normal, but recently my husband's recently retired, so it's a new normal now. With I've not worked Saturday morning since I was a teenager, and we're on school holidays now. So this is the first real holidays Peter's been at home. So it's been interesting. But yeah, my hours are 3 till 6 most days, and then I've got a 10 till 2 shift on a Saturday. But we make it work.
And it's just, it's not like you need to work. It's like you want to because
Yeah.
you are immersed in the.
Yeah, the book world, and it's quite funny because I reserve books, so I'm chunking 5 at a time, so I'm up to January now, so I try and get 5 new ones a month. But then I'm reading all my arcs too, so I have a book that I write down all my notes in, so I write down, who am I reading for, and when can I get books out of the library, and at least I can renew them if I need to.
What's your approach about promoting a new author versus established one?
I actually treat them all the same. I just find people are fun, getting to know them as people. And, I just treat them as, you're an author, whatever. And I enjoy that. And I think they respect that, because I'm that people person, and want to get them out there. They're happy with what I'm doing for them.
Yeah, I think right now the publishing world is changing, right? So even if you are established, you may be going indie very soon.
Yeah, a lot of like with the group I was with yesterday, we had probably 2 traditional authors, but they're going into the indie way now, and
Interesting.
a lot of the other ones who've written for years, they're doing the indie route too now. And it's quite a good we're all of different backgrounds, so we can pair on our knowledge. I was telling them yesterday I've got this podcast interview, and they said, "Oh, really cool. What are you doing?" So I told them about it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, the more I learn about podcast, other, the podcast author world, there's a lot out there. And we're thrilled that there is a market for this.
Well, I'm sure I'll pass on some of my authors. I'm sure they'd be willing to be
I've
interviewed
already
by you.
reached out to one of the author that you had sent to me, the Abby for the Two Gingers. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
she's one of the authors I'd like to meet one day. I've met and I've read for her all her books, and recently I did a quiz for her books, and she said, "I don't remember that one. Don't remember it. Sorry." So it's really cool.
What's something you wish more people asked you about?
Why why do I write romance? Why don't I write about something else? But it's just a world I like to be immersed in. So,
Any final thoughts or quotes that inspires you?
okay, a quote that inspires me is Anas Nin, and they've said, "Each friend represents a world in us, a world possibly not born until they arrive, and it's only by this meeting a new world is born." Now, I just sort of, because I think it's my personality with the people aspect, and getting to meet all these different people, and your paths cross in so many different ways, and
That is what connection is, all for us to share with each other.
yeah, I agree with you there.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook and the Lisa J page, probably not but hidden. Goodreads, I have the same handle, so that's where I do a lot of my reviews. So I review on Goodreads, BookBub, and Amazon. You find my book through Amazon, or you can find me when the website is up and ready. It's www.lisajpageauthor.com.
And also, I'm going to put your book from the Amazon in the description as well. So
That'd
if
be
you
great.
want to
Thank
read
you.
Lisa's story, Just a Family Friend, I'll put in the description and the pinned comment.
And it's also in dyslexic friendly font because part of Bella's brain condition is that, and that's in the adult book I'm writing about. I try and write things that I know,
Mm.
and so I've included that in there. And I find that getting out there with the font might be a way that might be a new lease on someone who doesn't read because of they have got dyslexia or something like that. They can do Audible, or they can, get other people to help them read, but, with my formatter and the guy who helped me with the getting it all together and the cover page and that sort of thing, he was the one who sort of said, "Hey, have you thought about doing it in dyslexic friendly font? We can, it can be marketed to people who don't read that very often." And that's what I've tried, and we'll see how it goes from there. And just sort of rest their eyes when they're reading and that sort of thing. And you do find that, with high schoolers, if they can avoid reading, it's one excuse that, they can do it with. And because with my high school job, I saw a lot of kids in different walks of life. So this way I know that they might be able to read something
Wow.
and enjoy something.
Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I know it's busy based on all those things that you're sharing. And I just like thank you again for all you do for the author community, especially the indie author community. We are forever grateful for Lisa J. Pages of the world to being selfless. You are creating that community that way.
Okay, thanks, Debbie, for having me.
And if you'd like to keep up with Lisa J. Page, just swirl on over to the Social Vortex and you'll spot her on these platforms. Give her a follow and see what she's up to next. After my discussion with Lisa, I think the biggest takeaway for me is just how important it is to build a supportive space where we all can connect with other authors, whether it's through an authors guild, an association, or even local writing circles. Staying involved in those communities reminds me that we're not in this alone. We have each other. And that makes the journey a lot less overwhelming and a lot more meaningful. Join us again as I sit down with more authors, share some of my marketing strategies I'm experimenting with, and then dive into plenty more along the writing journey. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. I'm Debbie.